All right. So what we are going to do in this session, it's a part of the, I'm going to share my screen. It's a part of the extent maintainers for VS Code extension sessions. This is the project. And for last 3 sessions, we were working on a feature called support permalinks. So this is what we've been working on. It's pretty much when you want to create like here, let's say, it's a matter, I'm just going to say GitLab couple link to active file. When I do that, I see that the file contains the ref, which is the branch that we are on. And that means that the line number is not very useful because the moment I'll create a commit into that file, it will start pointing to a wrong file. So what we want to create instead is the link that has got the SHA in there. And so we've been quite successful. And now I'm trying to remember where did we left off last time. There is a, I think that we were handling, we were using test-driven development, writing some tests for the edge cases. And one of the edge cases that we came up with was when the log, so we are using this repository, that's entity or a object that's coming from the VS Code Git extension, the one that's bundled in VS Code. Sorry, the raw repository is the one repository that's our wrapping interface. And then on that, we can call a log, which is asynchronous method that we say how many entries we want, and optionally we can say for what file. And when we use this path, that means that the log messages that we get are only for the particular, like only commits that change the path, which is exactly what we need. So we are getting the first, like the only commit message that we were interested in, or the only commit, get its hash, and that's what we are using to create a permalink. We tested it last time, it works, but what we then started working on was how to take care of the edge cases, namely the one where the log is 0. And that can happen, for example, if you are running the command on an unversioned file. That's when the log would return 0 entries. And Paul asked me to discuss the layering. So where should we surface? Like, this is not ideal to call this show warning message. I can maybe show what it does. So I'll run the extension. I don't know what the error, or maybe what is the error complaining about, just to see whether it compiled or not. So it didn't compile. So close this. Why did I say debug anyway? Because recently VS Code started showing me this message even when there are ESLint issues.
Oh yeah, I got this message even on a fresh install. So
right. I am not sure what I'll need to have a look at it. Yeah, I don't have a good excuse for why I didn't look into it before, I guess, one day. All right, so now when we are here in a new file, and I add some, so we see that it's not versioned, it's a new file.
Yeah.
And if I run the command, copy link to active file on GitLab, there's some breakpoint. I'm mainly interested, let's say here, and we would see the current file is not committed to the repository. So that's the message that we pass to it here. I'm actually gonna go ahead and probably go and put this message back in here. That might be controversial, but but I
Maybe
kind of
you
like
can
it better.
have a constant on the top of the file just to. Or,
That's what we. I was
it
just
was already there
reverting
on the top.
exactly that. It
Okay.
was at the top, and now I've put it in here because to me, it makes better sense to have the text because we are not supporting like
International.
internationalization. So to me, it makes sense to put the string in here. The only drawback of the solution that I can see is that technical writers don't have a one place to review all the messages, which is
Yeah.
drawback indeed. But then the code reads like really nicely. Anyway, this is not going to be the place where the message is, so let's leave it like this for now. And then
Yeah. Sure.
I'm happy to get convinced to move it into the constant again. But for now, the
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
file is not going to
It's
the repository.
fair
That's
enough.
what we saw. But this is probably not the place to put it. And the issue is that we wanted to show it as a warning. If we wanted to show it as an error, then it would be easy. We can just throw an error and something like the wrapping logic for the commands will catch it and show it. Like if I do show it, what I mean, throw a new error like this. If I did that, and now neat thing, I can just press Command R, and that will refresh the window from the latest, like because it's actually like running watch task and compiling on the fly, so I don't have to like kill it and start it. And now if I'll just put here a few lines and I say the workflow open file isn't part of the repository. Why is it a current file? Aha.
It's a fair warning, right? Because
Yeah,
this is not.
but that's strange that like I am surprised that I see this because just then we saw a different message. It got all the way
Yeah.
to this.
Okay. And even did you add that? So did you stage the file last time?
No, I think that last
That?
time I didn't save it, so I'm gonna try to
Okay.
like remove the maybe if I remove the content and I'll try to do what I did last time, which was without saving it. Still. All right, where is this coming from? I'm going to check open file as a part of a repository. Command Shift F. Yeah, here we go. So we try to get the project for the file. Now, how does that work? For the active editor, I would assume, let's just actually debug it. That's going to be easier. So I'm going to go back to, I would assume that we will go into this method. So let's try switch here. We didn't. Now we did. Here we go. So going in here, let's the editor. Document URI. What is it? File. That's what I would expect. The test project. New file 3.txt. So I'm gonna step in. What have I done? Yeah, step in. All right. Get repository root for URI. Get repository for a file. Okay. Ah. Well, cool. And it gets a repository. Okay, so it is a part of the repository. And okay. What I'm trying to figure out, like I was just trying to understand how this refreshing my memory on how this logic that gets active repository for a file works. I imagined that it just looks at the file and that it just looks at the file and it strips it. It just looks at all the repositories that we've got and matches whether the folder that the file is in matches one of those repositories. That's how I thought it would work. And I'm surprised that for a file that's actually in a repository, even though it's not versioned, but it is in a valid repository. But maybe, let's step into this. Okay. So here, this is the issue when we call get projects for repository. This part failed, or like failed. This part didn't work for that file. And I'm going to try to run now I can start. Here we go. So maybe we are not correctly initialized. Like maybe all the internal state of the extension doesn't contain all the projects. I'm going to try to figure out what this projects. Okay, so it looks like it's not initial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so let's have a look why that could be. Just gonna what breakpoints I have. I'm gonna delete them all and check. Okay, this makes sense.
Do you think the same issue exists even if we save the file or this repository?
Can you repeat the question, sorry?
Will it be a same error if we save the file in the repository?
Yeah, good idea. Let's check that out. But I think that this is the issue. This is, hey Vishal, I think that this is the issue because we don't have any initialized repository in that, and like we don't have, this repository is not assigned to GitLab project, which is strange. It is a GitLab project, but maybe my credentials are out or something like that. So that's why it didn't work. Like let's try, Viraj, what you're suggesting. I think it's going to behave the same way. Okay. And the message says, open file isn't part of a repository with a GitLab project. I should have really read the full message because now we see that. And I wonder whether this works. So the credentials should be okay. I wonder, okay. I have no idea what happened there. Refresh fixed it. I don't know whether when unless we see it again, I'm not going to be trying to debug that as a part of this pairing session, but it looks like the initialization there failed. Maybe in the output, if we have a look at the logs of GitLab workflow. Okay. No, that's a pipeline. Request to GraphQL failed. Maybe the request timed out, and that could be the reason. Like we are not retrying. Like when the request fails, we just don't initialize the project. So, here we go. Git extension wrapper is missing repository file. There was something with the I guess something with the state of the Git extension. And this one, it's pretty strange. I don't remember seeing it before, but let's not be too worried about it unless it's gonna appear again. Because what has to happen, pretty much we initialize our state of the extension, but sometimes the Git extension is not yet initialized. And at that moment, we just add listeners saying, if there appears a new Git project in here, in like if the Git extension recognizes a new Git repository, let us know about it. And it seems like that logic failed here somehow. Or maybe it was the timeout.
Yeah, maybe we can just retry it and see that if
yeah, we can try multiple times, but I think that now it's gonna, I would expect that now it's not gonna. Since I haven't seen you see the logs are increasing, it works, and I haven't seen that issue before, so I don't know what I've done to break it. But anyway, so now let's see for Vishal's benefit, the thing I was discussing is that now we have this logic that can has a look at the active editor and the repository and generates the URL. Now we are handling the edge case where the length of the log that we are getting from the repository is 0, which pretty much says the current file is not committed to the repository. And we would ideally not want to show it as an error, but we would also not want to just in the middle of our business logic call a VS Code and start showing user messages. So you can imagine that we would like to introduce something like a return value that would be like a warning message or like a kind of soft failure. It could be an error, but for user, it gets translated into a warning or something like that. So that's something that we will look at, but now I just wanted to show how simple it would be if we make it an error. And maybe that's something that we can start with, commit it, and then create a next commit, like an iteration on top of that, that would make it a warning. But before that, we were just showing a warning message. And now I'm trying to make it a little bit cleaner by showing the error. And now we are about to see that error pop up in the bottom right corner. I'll try to copy. The current file is not committed to the repository. So that's what the error does, but we would ideally not want to make it an error because it's like something failed. Was nothing really failed when you try to create a permalink for a new file. And so let's go to here and have a look what the test is doing for it. So we've got the opener, yes, and we will have the opener test, which is already failing. It's great. It's failing here. We were expecting that show warning message have been called with warning, but we can instead of that say here that we expect this, what is it? Yeah, one more. Resolves to throw, and then I hope that I can get regular expression. I can. Nice. So I'm going to give it a regular expression saying current file is not committed. this is controversial again. I just like to match on parts of the string. If we extracted it as a constant and we would export that constant, we could test for it here. I feel like there is a little bit more value in having those two things separated, and here just like test on the string, but make it a little bit more robust by testing only on a part of the string. I can be nudged to do it any other way if any of you feel strongly about it. I'm not really.
I don't think it's controversial. We can do it.
Okay. So now it should fail on this message because nothing has been called on the show warning message, but now. Because it's not rejects. Sorry, it's not resolve, it's rejects. It would be one thing. And what does it say? That makes sense. When the expect becomes asynchronous once you start passing promises into it. So received message, current file is not committed. It's not
You have three M's. Three M's.
Three M's. Nice. It's even underscored by the spell check, but all right. And then this is expected to fail because the
We're no longer showing and warning.
yeah, we are not invoking the. Okay, so this is not warning, it's an error. Tests work, logic works. So the to do we are going to handle in the next commit. We are going to focus on how to make this into warning. But for this commit, I can just remove it, commit it. Yeah, it's feature. Anyway, it's going to be squashed into one commit. So now it's a feature. Show error when trying to get permalink for version file. Okay. And now we can put here to do again. Show this to the user as a warning. Okay, and there is a concept in the VS Code extension called user-friendly error. Open user-friendly error. But it's kind of like the idea of this is that some internals of the extension throw an error that's complicated and very detailed. And for example, like API request failed with 401 and these details, or like 400 and these details. And instead of showing that to the user in the warning or error message that pops up here, the thing that VS Code calls error message, we wrap it into some user-friendly text saying like your API failed, and then show you let's actually show you what that would be if I wrap the error into throw new user-friendly error. And the user-friendly error expects help me out TypeScript. Throw new user-friendly error. Then what does the constructor expect? message, original error, additional info. Okay, so let's show the message, and original error is going to be this one. And so, an additional info, let's put it there as well, just for a good measure. Now, if I refresh here, here's some text, and start again, create it, we will see this is the message of the user-friendly error, and then we can show logs, which says message. Then there is the error message stack trace of the error of the original error, and additional info, whatever that would be. Now, this mechanism doesn't really help us to show warning. It's more about making errors more user-friendly. But the part that's handling the user-friendly error is, let's have a look at all the references. There is going to be something like a show error, like something that handles the error messages.
Might want to use show implementations, right?
Implementations, you think?
Yeah.
No, it's not a interface. This is a class
Okay.
that's we create. But maybe the detailed error. What is the? I'm trying to figure out. There is somewhere logic that turns it into, that says if it is user-friendly error, show this and this UI element. And so I'm gonna
Just borrow that UI element directly.
yeah. I'm just gonna full text search for the user-friendly error when the language server fails. And there needs to be somewhere like if it's user-friendly error, log throw new, or import throw export class. I'm just surprised.
You'll have to check all the throw new errors because the if condition will be not shown in there.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Vishal?
The if condition won't show in the search, so you'll have to just go through all the throw new user-friendly errors.
Yeah. I was just expecting that it's more going to be like if it's a case of, but I think that like I was expect like this looks like we are just throwing it. I don't see any in all the usages of it. I don't see any place that would be handling the UI. That makes me want to think that we are like working with the detailed error, and that's what we are going to be checking on somewhere.
Is that the handle error that there's in the second last file in the search? What's the second? Yeah, what is that? The handle error over there?
A handle error. It's
I mean, is it part of VS Code or is it part
no,
of
this is
some?
ours. This is ours. That's it. I think that
Okay.
might be it. That looks like show error message, show logs. That's the show logs that we were seeing. Good eyesight, good catch, Vishal. That's what we were looking for. So here, this handle error is called every time, and this was what I was saying. I was actually like, we are looking for the detailed error interface, which is the user-friendly error. It inherits it, but this worked as well. And so the handler error is the thing that does the UI treatment. That's the function that does the UI treatment. And here it say if there is a help error, that's a different one that shows the help error points you to our documentation. It shows you the README and points you to the particular spot in the README. Then we are here somewhere, have to check show error message choice. But I guess we are not the detailed error. We are not really using. We are not really
There's
checking
also
for it
log
anyway.
level. there's also log level as a, like, we
Yes.
can use it as a warning. And
That's for logging. Yeah, that we could like here we can in many places
okay.
we would call log warning. Oh, maybe if
But this is not the really warning we want to show here.
Yeah, we don't want to necessarily log it, but that's for like maybe it's not the best that it's put together in one, like into the logging section, I guess, because we were like logging it as well. I guess it ended up being in the log module.
Okay. Okay.
But maybe UI handling of the error should be outside, probably. I am almost certain that it shouldn't be. We just proved that it's confusing. I don't know where we would put it. This is on the top level. Like you see that the path of it is just in source. There is a log module. We could put there like a handle error module. Maybe we can just for now say here put a to fix me UI treatment of the error is not really closely related to logging. Should have a different module. Okay, maybe that's something that we will get to do. But now this is pretty much where we are showing the error message with, this is the part that's really interesting to us. It's the VS Code window show error message. Maybe we could have something like a really silly named like a warning error. And here we find out like if it's a warning error, then we are showing the text as a warning and we don't offer the logs. So I'm just going to freestyle a little bit and we can polish it afterwards. So I would create wherever we have user-friendly error. I think that we have a folder with errors here somewhere. Where are we? User-friendly error, errors, new file, warning error, as export class, warning error, extends error, and what error it just has a, it's an interface. Okay. And, but why are we doing it here? Extends error. I was thinking that error is not just an interface. I would think that it's a class with implementation. Because otherwise, like there is a JavaScript class called error. So I would think that this might be enough.
Isn't that the most JavaScript thing ever? You have multiple implementations of the same type, or
Yeah, probably like I don't know where this, if I'll do this, where are we? TypeScript library, TypeScript. So it's like a TypeScript types on top of JavaScript, and it makes it into interface instead of explaining what the class is. I don't wanna.
there's also, could you just go in there? There's also a variable called error. I don't know how that's working. Like 5 lines down, 1064.
064 error constructor.
So like they're defining an error variable as well, and they're defining an interface on an error as well.
So we could say, I guess that means that we could do both, like implements error or extends error. And if it extended error, it would be extending the interface. If it's implementing, it's going to be in taking this constructor. I guess. Don't quote me on that, but like just from using it, looking at the user-friendly error, it works. Like we inherited the, like we are calling super message. So there needs to be a class, or like in JavaScript, it's probably the prototype that from the old school JavaScript that we are invoking here. And so, yeah, I would say we don't need anything else. So I'm just happy to keep it the class as a warning error, because the only thing we are after, the the constructor is going to be inherited, and we are only after the being able to distinguish that it's a warning error. Maybe we could do something like eventually, oh, where were we in the log? Here we are. Maybe eventually we could do something nice, like every error has its own, like a method that figures out whether that error applies. And then, like because now we will have 2 of these if statements, but if we had like 4, we might want to create an array of these errors and have it would be like this. Help error, user-friendly error, and warning error. And then there would be like for each, or find, is it? Filter? Like, or maybe find, is it find that gets the, yeah, it's got the predicate.
Yeah.
So find, and here it would be the error type. That's what we are getting. And we would be saying error type is, and here we would pass in the E that comes, that's the actual error that's coming in. And that way we could relatively simply extend the behavior here, but all the actual logic would be defined on the error. Instead of now we are going to be calling, we are going to be writing here a condition saying if error is instance of warning error, then do something. And instead we could just have a, find the error that applies and let it do its thing. But I'm not, for 2 errors, I don't want to go through doing it. Maybe when we start seeing a lot of if else or like if statements, we could clean it up like this. And so if yeah, so if error instance of warning error, we are going to, okay, and this is the return only for testing, because we are like, we don't need, this doesn't need to return anything. And actually, if it returned the empty promise, we would have to, if it was directly, if it wasn't on this object, this TypeScript annotation says the function returns an object that has one property only for testing, and that property is a promise. And now if we didn't have it this way, but we would have returned the promise directly, we need to await the handler error everywhere where you use it, and we don't necessarily want that because this is the end of the line. Like we are happy to like fire away user message saying something went wrong and keep on doing whatever the logic needs to do. And so we didn't want to let the ESLint to force us to put await everywhere, because when you put an await on the error message, that means that user needs to go and like dismiss the error message, and only after that the execution continues. And so this is kind of workaround around it. And but for testing, if we want to test this handler method, which we do, we need to return it. And so here I would assume that we want to do the same thing as the helper error, and we want to return only for testing, and it's going to be VS Code window show warning. Testing, VS Code window show warning message, e.message, like this. And okay, this returns string or undefined, and this is confused about it because this is supposed to be void, return void. So why does the show warning message return string? It's because these things can have buttons, And so as you see here, for example, show error message, anything there is like variable amount of arguments after, you see the ... here, variable amount of string arguments that come after the initial error message, and those are buttons on the little popover here. And so you can add arbitrary amount of buttons after. Those are all going to show here the way how we saw. I'll try to do it again. Hopefully I have still the old code. So this is the button, and when you click on it, this this function called resolves with that string of the button, like directly the label of it. That's why we are checking the choice here. And if we clicked just the cross or like dismissed it, somehow the message it would return undefined. And so that's what I guess this signature is trying to tell us, and that's why the TypeScript fails on the type checking, because this is not returning promise void. And
How is it working in 2 lines above? I mean, you're doing the exact same thing, right?
say it again.
Why was
Above?
it working at line number 77?
Because
it's
here,
not returning undefined.
yeah, that's actually our own, like that we defined it in our code base, the method, and it does return promise void.
Got it.
But
So
since
we
we
have to
really don't,
basically wrap the undefined into some promise void or something. That's what we did earlier, and we have to handle now.
yeah, we could do that. We could just say async function that returns like this and like a return undefined. You could do that. Like that should, I don't know why it's so I was hoping to fix it. Like if I put here back void, maybe that would. This needs to be awaited now. I'm not planning to keep the code in there. I'm just trying to make it pass. See, that's strange. I think that these two are the two same things, but just the TypeScript looks at them differently. So I need to do this. Unnecessary. Okay, maybe I don't even need to do that. A function, I would need to immediately invoke it. That's crazy. But not. What did I do wrong? Ah, sorry. No, it was the correct one. Now I'm getting a little bit entangled in a code that I don't want to put there anyway. So let's go to figure out why the unknown doesn't work. I was expecting that if I put here, promise any, all the problems will go away, but we don't want to use that. But let's use it as a baseline to see that the problems go away. This enable element is missing. So that's the problem. We are here saying that this returns a promise, but this returns a denable. And the difference between denable and promise in TypeScript is that denable only has den on it. Like if you know the JavaScript promises JavaScript promise is an object that takes, you can call it with like the then, catch, or finally functions that accept callbacks, and those callbacks get invoked when the promise rejects, resolves, or in both cases. And then the denable is a heavily, in VS Code, it's a heavily used type or interface, and that only has then, doesn't have the catch or finally. That's why this is failing. So I guess since we are not expecting it to ever throw, and it never does, these things, like if they threw, that would mean that just the VS Code crashed or something. It never does. It shows the message and it just gives you the then available. Like
So
gives
then
you
we can say
then.
the nibble of a void, right?
Yes, we could, but then this will start failing, I think, because the void is not a string or undefined. That's
Okay,
what.
void or
That's
correct.
the.
So
That's
we
the.
can void or undefined. We'll have to write.
I think that we can
just
do unknown, and that should be okay. So the unknown is a very strange type, and it's like any, but it's any that you can't read from. So it's like you can imagine there's a container that you can chuck anything in, and as long as you don't want to read from it, you are okay. The difference with any is that any also can, when you are reading from it or using it, it can behave as any type. You can call like any dot and come up with any property name, and the TypeScript will compile regardless of whether it's there. Unknown is useful exactly for these scenarios where you just want to put something in there. Like often you would want to create like a record of string to unknown. And record is just a key value pair. It's, for example, object. Like if you create this object, it's a record. Like if you use the object literal. And so this is quite often used for example, when you are passing in get parameters, right? And you are creating get parameters for a get a request to API. You are checking in these things, and then you don't have to enumerate everything that can be there. The framework for processing the GET request then looks at the object itself, uses some kind of a, is this parameter a string? Is it an array? Is it, and it handles all those cases without you having to specify them in the type, and you can just put anything in the type.
Is this JavaScript's way of doing type safety?
TypeScript way? Well, TypeScript always compiles into JavaScript, and like there is no runtime safety. It's just the compile time safety that you are getting, which is still pretty good. We've got this warning error that it doesn't know about. I exported the class warning error. Here we go. Perfect. So now, before we start writing tests, I'm just going to quickly test that the whole thing works. So I'll go to the openers, and here I'll say new warning error. And because this doesn't, cool. So now I should be able to refresh this. This could start passing again because we weren't checking for the type. We might eventually check for the type, but now I'm going to have a look at we are good here. Yeah, refresh from the latest code. And now if I'll put here some text and I try to get a active link for it, the current file is not committed to repository. So it works. We can just change the test here to reflect wherever this test to throw, and we might want to check the type of the error that we are throwing, just so we are also testing that it's a warning and not an error. And then we want to write a test for this, and we want to write test for the new handling that we introduced here. Okay. So I don't know how to do this in Jest, whether there is any.
It was to throw error, right? To throw error. Maybe that checks is it an error or not?
Yeah, throw, but you can say warning error. Maybe this could be enough for the test. Like, yeah, we are not checking exactly what the error message is, but is it that important to check? Or we can just
store it in a variable that rejects one and then just do 2 checks. It throws a warning error and that warning error has a message.
Yeah, possibly. I've never done that before. I don't know whether it's idiomatic testing here, but like you mean const error would be this part.
I mean, everything inside expect.
All right. So this would be copy result, and we would say that copy result rejects. Now if I save it, it should format it in one line, and I say copy result rejects to throw, and I can give here, put here the original. The only way to copy it now. Okay, another chance for me to make a typo. Current file is not committed. Okay, let's see what the. Okay. Look at Vishal, the JavaScript developer. I'll make sure that we'll send
Yeah.
some front-end code merge request your way.
Sure. I'll be just like, looks good to me.
That's what I do with every merge request that comes my way.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't do a lot of, okay, I won't say anything here recording.
Too late. And now we will check the handle error. Prompts user to show logs. Parses argument to the handler. Let's just create a new one saying shows warning error as warning. And we want to execute command. No, we don't need that. Show error message. Where is this coming from? Show error message. I see. So we can just say here, we don't need. We want to show warning message. I don't even need that probably. I can just say handle error, new warning error message only for testing, and then I can check that expect that the VS Code window show. I can just do this VS Code window show warning message.
I have to hop off for another call, so I'm just saying.
All right.
Thank you for the session.
Thank you as well.
Bye-bye.
See ya. I'm gonna wish I just like 2 minutes,
Sure.
finish writing this test, commit it, and we are probably done with the feature. I can just ping everyone on it to review it, and then we can merge it and be done with it.
Nice.
To be
Sure.
called with message. That's what we really wanted. This, we don't need this. Okay, and let's just double check that I do this, which you are never supposed to do in JavaScript, which is concatenating strings this way. It's probably already complaining. It says
Failing.
that
Perfect.
fetch resource X. Yeah, awesome.
So the
So
test works.
the test works. This could be better. We will leave the fix me here for now. We are showing warning message when the file is not versioned. Otherwise, we are generating permalink. Let's check that for a sec. So refresh. This is a versioned file. I'm gonna copy a link to active file, and if I open it in the browser, sweet, cool. All right.
As a completely different tangent thing, when do you use to do and when do you use fix me over here? No,
I
not
use
at all related to the MR, but
I
I'm
use
just
fix
curious.
me. I use just fix me when I feel like very strongly about it, and I would like to get to it sooner than all the to-dos.
Got it.
Like a higher priority to do.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks a lot for pairing sessions. And sorry for joining late. I was in another call.
Oh, good. Thanks as well. I think that this one was the last one. Now we can all start maintaining the VS Code extension. We'll discuss it on the extend maintainers issues.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.